So after a long week of working, I'm finally home and I'm on a date. My Taco Bell shells with my Chipotle. I missed Betty's yesterday, y'all, so I'm watching Betty's right now. This is my favorite drink.
You. Tonight, family, friends, and a community came together to mourn the loss of 21-year-old Maurice Harrison, also known as Girl Allah. Detectives say her boyfriend shot and killed the social media influencer 8 days ago. Local 10's Byron Tollefson is live in Pompano Beach. Byron.
Well, moments ago, we spoke with the victim's aunt, and in her time of grief, she just wants victims of domestic violence to know that there is always help available.
Northwest 37th Avenue, Lauderdale Lakes, Florida, Friday, November 14th, 2025, 6:47 p.m. A Tesla dash cam is recording. A sedan idles at the curb. The passenger door opens. A young woman pushes through it, one leg out. A man moves, grabs her by the hair, forces her back in. The door closes. One shot. Silence. She had documented the bruises. She had posted the warnings. She had told the world. So why was she still in that car? Welcome to Hidden Motive Crime. New here, subscribe and hit that bell. We read the arrest records, the court filings, the posts that get deleted. For those coming back, you already know what we do. Today, Girl Allah, a young woman who did everything right and still lost everything. 4 facts, all documented, all public record. Fact 1. Shanoid White Jr., Girl Allah's boyfriend of several years, had a domestic violence arrest on file. November 2022, Broward County. The arrest form stated he physically and maliciously battered a victim multiple times. That victim declined to pursue charges. The case was dropped. White walked free. No conviction. No court-ordered intervention. Nothing. Fact 2. Girl Allah's own social media videos showed her injuries. A cut across her nose. Marks beneath her eye. In one video, she looked directly into her camera and told her followers she and her boyfriend always fight. Present tense, ongoing, and the comment sections moved on. Fact 3. She was 21 years old, a professional hairstylist, a TikTok creator with 296,000 followers. For thousands of young Black transgender people, she was the first trans woman they had ever personally connected with. Not through a news story, but through her own hands and her own voice. Fact 4. When Broward Sheriff's Office deputies arrived on November 14th, Shanoid White Jr. was still at the scene. The Tesla footage had recorded everything. His arrest record was already in the system, and Girl Allah was already gone. This is not a mystery, it is a pattern. And today we follow that pattern, all the way to the people who had the power to break it. Before we go further, drop in the comments right now. Had you seen Girl Allah's content before her death? Did you know her name while she was still alive? Your answer reveals something important about who we notice and who we don't, until it is far too late. Picture a ring light, wigs on mannequin heads, the phone propped at the perfect angle. This was her world. Maurice Harrison, known to nearly 300,000 people as Girl Allah, was 21 years old, living in Pompano Beach, Florida, and building something real. She was a professional hairstylist and wig specialist. Every transformation video she posted was both a business card and a declaration. This is who I am. This is what I create, and I am not going anywhere. In South Florida's LGBTQ+ community, she was not simply a content creator. She was a reflection. For young Black transgender people who had spent their lives looking into spaces that looked nothing like them, her TikTok page was the first mirror that fit. 296,000 followers on TikTok, 44,000 on Instagram. The comments told the real story. You are the reason I came out. I didn't know I could be this. And Victoria Kirby York of the National Black Justice Collective confirmed it plainly. Girl Allah was, for many of her followers, the first transgender person they had ever personally connected with. Not through a documentary, not through a debate, through a wig tutorial on a random Tuesday afternoon, on their phone, in their bedroom, at the exact moment they needed to see it. She had clientele growing, momentum building, a brand assembling itself piece by piece in front of an audience that was rooting for every step. But watch the full archive, not just the videos that performed well, and something shifts in certain clips. Her energy quieter than usual. The laugh arriving a half-second late. Followers noticed. Some asked if she was okay. She called it stress, called it life. The comment sections moved on. However, she was not a cautionary tale waiting to happen. She was a young woman in the middle of becoming something. Remember that, because what comes next did not define her. It only ended her. But while she was building, someone she trusted was carrying a history she may not have fully known existed. Shanoid White Jr. was 25 years old. Before November 14th, 2025 attached his name permanently to violence, his story carried the appearance of structure. He had played defensive lineman for the Bethune-Cookman University Wildcats, a historically black university in Daytona Beach, Florida. Division I football, a team, a coaching staff, a framework that, from the outside, suggested discipline. Nothing about that surface announced what was underneath it. November 2022, Broward County, Florida, White is arrested on a domestic violence charge. And the arrest form does not use careful language. It states he physically and maliciously battered a victim. Not once. The form specifies multiple times. That victim was not Gurlalala. She was a woman who made the decision, as many survivors do, not to pursue charges. The reasons survivors make that choice fill volumes of research. Fear, financial dependence, distrust of a legal system that has historically failed women who look like her, pressure from people around them. We do not judge her decision. We note its consequence. The case dissolved. White walked out. No conviction entered. No mandatory counseling ordered. No intervention of any kind required by law. Just an arrest form, filed, logged, placed into a database in Broward County, where it sat quietly for 3 years. By the time he and Gurlalala had been together for several years, that record was still there, accessible to law enforcement, visible in background systems, a documented pattern of physical violence against a woman attached to his name in the same county where he would eventually kill Gurlalala. No one was legally required to tell her it existed. A document describing exactly the behavior that would end her life, and the system that created it had no mechanism to place it in her hands. I want to ask you something directly. If you discovered your partner had a prior domestic violence arrest against another woman, what would you do? What would you need to know to act on it? Drop your honest answer below, because the gap between what people say they would do and what they actually do, that gap is where people run out of time. And if you scrolled through Gurlalala's TikTok looking for Shanoid White Jr., you would not find much. He was not her content. Her platform was her craft, the wigs, the clients, the transformations. She kept that boundary deliberately. And for a woman who was openly transgender, openly visible, openly building in front of 296,000 people, that boundary was not nothing. What followers received were fragments, a passing reference, a mention that dissolved before it could become a conversation. Behind that silence, people who knew them told a different story. Friends, relatives, people inside their circle. The word that kept appearing in reporting from Local 10 News and NBC affiliate WTVJ was turbulent. Not occasionally difficult. Turbulent as a condition, as the default setting of that relationship. After her death, the internet went back through her archive. Followers pulled older videos, compiled clips, built timelines from footage that had been publicly available for months or years. In one video, the injury on her face was visible, a cut across her nose, marks beneath her eye. She addressed it briefly, casually. The comment sections at the time asked a few questions. She deflected. The algorithm moved everyone forward. In another video, she said plainly that she and her boyfriend fought. Regularly. Her tone was flat, accepted. Domestic violence researchers recognize that tone immediately. It is what happens when conflict has been present long enough that the nervous system stops registering it as a crisis. It becomes expected. It becomes something you explain away with a laugh and a subject change. Gurlalala was not navigating this from a position of unlimited options. The National Domestic Violence Hotline's published research is consistent. Transgender women of color face layered barriers when seeking help. Distrust of law enforcement rooted in documented history. The real fear of being misgendered by the officers meant to protect you. Community pressure to handle conflict privately. She was not standing at one of those barriers. She was standing at all of them. She was not hiding, she was surviving. There is a difference. And that difference is the only honest way to understand what the final days look like. The week before she died, Gurla Lala was still working, still posting, still showing up for an audience that had built itself around her consistency. It's still the professional that nearly 300,000 followers counted on to be there. That is the detail that stays with you, not the end. The ordinary days immediately before it, the clients she likely saw that week, the content she filmed, the conversations she had with people who had no idea they were speaking to her for the last time. People close to her would later describe a tension that had been accumulating. Not one bad argument, not a single rough week. A weight that had been pressing on that relationship long enough for the people around her to recognize it as something beyond a rough patch, even without the legal standing to formally intervene. There is no public record of a restraining order filed by Gurla Lala against Shanoid White Jr. No 911 call attributed to her in the days immediately before November 14th. What existed instead was the knowledge, carried quietly, carried alone, that reaching for official help does not guarantee safety. Sometimes it accelerates danger. Sometimes the person you called about finds out you made the call. That knowledge leaves no paper trail. It appears in no database. And it is one of the most consequential forces in domestic violence cases. The Broward Sheriff's Office confirmed the pair had been together for several years. Several years of that pattern. Several years of those videos accumulating. Several years of that 2022 arrest record sitting in a database that no one was required to open on her behalf. November 14th was a Friday, an ordinary Friday, the kind that ends the same way it begins. With no particular sign it will be the last one. That evening, Gurla Lala and White were together in a car on the 3300 block of Northwest 37th Avenue in Lauderdale Lakes. A verbal argument started. It turned physical. She reached for the door handle. She tried to leave. What happened next was captured entirely by a Tesla dash cam parked nearby. We will get to that footage. But what happened on the other side of that door, in the seconds before the camera recorded everything, that is what this case is really about. True crime audiences always arrive at the same question eventually. Why didn't she just leave? I want to challenge that framing entirely. Drop in the comments, what do you think actually stops someone from leaving a dangerous relationship? Not what you think you should say, what you genuinely believe. Because this is a conversation, not a judgment. Friday, November 14th, 2025. On Lauderdale Lakes, Florida, the sun is down. On the 3300 block of Northwest 37th Avenue, a sedan sits parked at the curb. Inside it, Gurla Lala and Shanoid White Jr. The argument has moved past words. Broward Sheriff's Office deputies would later confirm it turned physical inside that car. She reaches for the passenger door. It opens, one leg out, her body angled toward the street. Across the road, a Tesla is parked. Its dash cam is running, passive, automatic, recording without being asked. White comes out of the driver's side. He moves around the car to her side, grabs her by the hair, forces her back into the seat. The door closes. He does not get back in. He stands outside, phone in hand. The footage shows no panic in his movement, no urgency. A man pacing on a sidewalk, deliberate, unhurried, as if working through a decision he has already made. Then he gets back in the car. One shot, Gurla Lala, Maurice Harrison, 21 years old, hairstylist, creator, daughter, sister, is shot inside that vehicle on a Friday evening in Broward County. White does not leave. When Broward Sheriff's Office deputies arrive shortly before 7 p.m., he is still there. The weapon is present, the shooter is present, the victim is present. First responders reach the scene and find no ambiguity, no conflicting accounts to sort through, no question about sequence or responsibility. White is taken into custody, no chase documented, no resistance recorded in official reports. Just a man standing next to what he had done. A Tesla dash cam had recorded every second of it. By Saturday morning, Gurlalala's name was moving across the internet faster than any video she had ever posted. The same platforms she had spent years building, TikTok, Instagram, the spaces where 340,000 combined followers had watched her work and watched her grow, were now carrying something she never put there. Grief. The comment sections of her existing videos changed overnight. Tributes first, then shock, then anger, then the clips. Older videos pulled from her archive by followers who had watched them in real time said nothing, and were now compiling them side by side with news of her death. The injuries visible on her face, the video where she said they always fight, posted publicly, available to anyone, seen by thousands, and ignored until it was too late to matter. JT, the rapper, one half of Grammy-winning duo City Girls, posted to her Instagram stories. The post expired, but it had already been screenshotted and shared across every platform before it disappeared. Her words were direct. Nothing is funny about a domestic violence story. She addressed queer communities and straight communities equally, calling out the pattern of treating intimate partner violence as drama to spectate rather than danger to interrupt. It was the most pointed public statement made in the immediate aftermath outside of Gurlalala's own family. Her family had already been to this place before. Earlier in 2025, they had buried her brother, shot and killed. Gun violence taking one child before they had finished mourning him. Now they were standing at another grave. They released a statement through local media, too devastated to speak on camera. 6 sentences. They asked for prayers. They asked for justice. A family that had already buried one child, bearing another, to violence, again. The headlines moved quickly toward the arrest, the charges, the courtroom, the way headlines always do. But what those headlines did not slow down to examine, what White faced the moment he stood before a judge, and what that Tesla footage meant legally, that is what closes every exit a defense attorney might otherwise find. That dash cam did not just capture a crime, it captured a choice. When Shanoid White Jr. was booked into Broward County Jail, the charge on his paperwork carried one word that separated it from every lesser charge beneath it. Premeditated. First-degree murder with a firearm. The highest charge Florida law carries. Not second degree. A not manslaughter, first degree, meaning prosecutors looked at what that Tesla dash cam recorded and concluded that somewhere between grabbing her by the hair, standing outside that car pacing with a phone in his hand, and getting back in, a decision had already been formed. Over the weekend following his arrest, White stood before a judge. The hearing was brief. The decision was not. Bond denied. Remanded to Broward County Jail. No path to release pending trial. Now consider what prosecutors are building. The Tesla dash cam footage requires no eyewitness to hold up under cross-examination. It is time-stamped, continuous, unedited. It shows the physical confrontation, shows White forcing Gurlalala back into that seat when she tried to leave, shows him pacing outside with deliberate movement before the shot. Frame by frame, unambiguous, layered beneath that footage, his November 2022 Broward County domestic violence arrest, the one documenting physical and malicious battery of a previous victim. Multiple times, the arrest that dissolved when that victim declined to pursue charges. That record is now in a prosecutor's file, and alongside both, Gurlalala's own social media archive, her videos, her voice, the visible injuries she posted publicly without knowing a courtroom would one day need them. That archive cannot be cross-examined, it cannot be rattled or discredited. It is her testimony, given long before anyone knew it would be required. But here is where the legal battle sharpens. Florida Evidence Code Section 90.404 governs prior bad acts in criminal trials. A prior arrest without a conviction is not automatically admissible. The defense will argue White was never found guilty in 2022, that placing that arrest before a jury prejudices him unfairly. Prosecutors will counter it establishes a direct pattern of physical violence against women in his relationships. That argument will be fought in pretrial motions before a single juror is seated. I want your take on this. Should a domestic violence arrest, without a conviction, be admissible as evidence in a murder trial involving the same pattern of behavior? There is no clean answer. Legal scholars disagree. Judges have ruled both ways. But this debate is happening in Broward County right now. Tell me what you think in the comments. As of the most recent publicly available records, Shanoid White Jr. remains in custody at Broward County Jail. The case is moving through the Florida court system. Pretrial proceedings, motions, a process that operates on its own timeline, regardless of how urgently the people waiting for answers need it to move. Florida law on first-degree murder with a firearm is unambiguous. Upon conviction, mandatory minimum of life imprisonment, no parole eligibility, life means life. Whether prosecutors pursue the death penalty under Florida statute has not been confirmed publicly at the time of this recording. Girulalala's family has not released further statements. They are grieving privately. They asked for space. They asked for justice. In that order, a conviction will hold Shanoid White Jr. accountable for November 14th, 2025. It will not give her brother back. It will not give her back. It will not reopen the 2022 case that dissolved. It will not rebuild the system that had his arrest on file and no mechanism to warn her. Accountability and resolution are not the same thing. A courtroom can deliver one. The chapter being written now, with lawyers and motions and a jury not yet selected, that chapter matters. But the chapter that needed to be written years earlier, the one about intervention, about protection, about a documented arrest that should have triggered something more than silence, that chapter was left blank. And Girulalala paid for that blank page with her life. 6 days. That is the distance between November 14th and November 20th, the Transgender Day of Remembrance. The single day each year when the world is asked to stop and read the names of transgender lives lost to violence. Girulalala did not make it to that day. Her name was added to that list instead. Victoria Kirby York of the National Black Justice Collective said something after her death that needs to be heard as fact, not comfort. She said Girulalala likely saved lives by existing publicly, by building visibly, by being the first transgender woman thousands of young people ever personally connected with. That impact does not end because she was killed. It lives in every person she reached before November 14. Angela Farrell Zabala, executive director of Moms Demand Action, called her death a cruel reminder of the disproportionate violence faced by transgender and gender-expansive people, particularly Black transgender women. Advocates responded with a specific demand, not a general one. When they called for domestic violence organizations and law enforcement to coordinate directly, ensuring that Violence Against Women Act funding reaches Black transgender women with shelter access, legal support, and protection frameworks built for their reality. One prior arrest, one declined prosecution, one gap in a system that had every opportunity to function differently. One life ended. Girulalala warned the world. The bruises were posted. The words were said. The videos existed. The system had his arrest on file and no requirement to tell her. Share this video if her story moved you. Subscribe to Hidden Motive Crime. Next time we cover a case where intervention worked and examine exactly what made the difference. Before you go, one question for the comments. What would it actually take for you to report a friend's dangerous relationship? Think about it. Her name was Morris Harrison. The world knew her as Girulalala. Remember both.